News First, Newsline with Faraz Ali.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And lovely day out there again. As usual, Sri Lanka is an absolutely pretty place to live in. But there are various issues, as we keep saying, and to discuss some of those issues and to comment on some of the more current matters is Mr. Keerthi Tenakun. Very good morning to you, Mr.
Very good morning, Faraz.
Nice to see you here.
Very pleasant day.
Now then, there's always a question of leadership. We appear to have a leadership problem, and it keeps going on and on. But we'd like to, in between, we also see the involvement of foreign powers in our country. They seem to be showing, from time to time, an almost unhealthy interest. And there's much consternation that whilst we can be friends, we don't really want them in the bedroom. And if we have a look at this clip from our news last night, it'll put into place what we're saying. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa called on the Indian Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and several others from the Indian Congress Party earlier today. Rajapaksa also held discussions with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and government officials today as well. What could be the reason for Mahinda Rajapaksa to visit India with his son Namal Rajapaksa? It is no secret that when Mahinda Rajapaksa was president, he closely worked with China, and it was China that carried out major infrastructure projects, including the Colombo Port City, the Hambantota Port, the Matala Airport, and expressways in Sri Lanka. However, today, Rajapaksa seems to be having a closer relationship with India and is currently there on an invitation extended by senior BJP leader Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, who was in Sri Lanka recently. Do you recall the expose by the New York Times on the 25th of June on Mahinda Rajapaksa's relationship with China? The article revealed that ex-President Mahinda Rajapaksa had received $7.6 million from China Harbour Engineering Company, which was involved in the Hambantota Port Development Project. China Harbour Engineering Company is owned by the government of China. This story was reported by Maria Abi Habib, and according to the New York Times, she is their South Asia correspondent based in New Delhi. Did the South Asia correspondent of the New York Times make this revelation to reflect Indian geopolitical interests? These sequence of events suggest the possibility that Mahinda Rajapaksa may well have got himself intertwined, unwittingly even, in a political trap with implications for Sri Lanka's historical non-aligned policies. And that's the question, Keerthi. Has the former president got himself intertwined in a political trap, perhaps unwittingly, but that is at odds with Sri Lanka's historical non-aligned stance?
We were watching on January 9th when the former president Mahinda Rajapaksa was saying from Madamulana that it was the RAW and the India behind his defeat, his downfall. And all of a sudden, everyone surprised the sudden change of behavior by the Indians, and the invitation extended by very close friend of Mahinda Rajapaksa, Swamy, came to Sri Lanka, invited, had discussion, and there was official invitation. Even though this meeting is labeled as a private visit or it's a private tour to India, everyone knew that it is going to be a very high profile meeting. And now all the surprise that the former president took Namal Rajapaksa with him instead of taking GL Pires or someone or Dinesh Gunawardena or very senior former cabinet members with him, but it was chosen to take go with Namal Rajapaksa there, and the official discussions were there, and the Hindu and the other papers reported it in a very lengthy way. Now the specialist political analyses are coming on this, the Indian perspective and the global foreign correspondents are talking about this. It is very interesting.
It's
that
very interesting,
very interesting. My brother or someone else will come on.
Yes,
So
and that issue, Kumar Welgama, the Kalutra district MP, has been critical of that.
Yes,
now
definitely.
it's very strange because Kumar Welgama has been a great supporter of the former president, but he's calling a spade, and he said that the family bandism is not suitable for the country, and former President Rajapaksa faced defeat at the last presidential election due to this family-centric role. Why is politics so bankrupt that?
This is one way of looking into that question, but there's another dimension for this.
Yeah.
And we should not forget that the popularism again with the joint opposition at the moment is with Mahinda Rajapaksa and nothing else. The close associates, some of them are very corrupt and labeling them in a different way. There are allegations, there are investigations going in, but the people we have seen, there is a bond between Mahinda Rajapaksa for that matter, especially in a way. So whatever the decision Mahinda Rajapaksa takes, that is the candidate for 2019 for sure. So in that perspective, I think this announcement, my brother, he has not said which brother for that matter, that's a totally different story, but he has officially announced that it will be my brother.
Yes.
So, when we go back to 2012, 2013, Faraz, this was the same sentiment with the previous government. The very big decisions came after political parties visiting New Delhi. The decision-making ability and power with the India when it comes to the Sri Lankan politics cannot be undermined. Whether it's
but do you think that in this case that some other state agency has interfered or has managed to get their sort of viewpoint put across, or their plan put into place?
I mean, the Indian role in Sri Lankan politics, or the role in Sri Lankan politics, to be very specific, was very much talked about from 1970s upwards. So it's a known fact. But here, the most important thing, the relationship now building with Rajapaksas with India will definitely play a big role within next 13 months. Why I am saying next 13 months is that according to the present constitution and the way it has interpreted at the moment is the last date of having a election for the presidential election is December 8th of 2019. So to go for an election before December 8th 2019, the nomination should be called by 2019 October 15th or around that day. So it's only 13 months from today. So 13 months is a very long time in politics, but for a presidential election, it needs some, I mean, a very big homework.
Now then, let's move on to another subject, which is again causing some concern, and that's the role of the attempt to arrest the Chief of Defence Services. Now then, the President says that as the Minister and as the President, he ought to be told and kept abreast of what's going to happen, especially to do with senior military officials. I think that's fair comment.
It's a very fair comment, Faraz, because I mean we have seen very senior military officials were taken into the custody, former military officials were taken into the custody. I mean, before that particular sort of incident, if you look very closely, the behavior of media, it's a total, some sort of a manipulations comes within. We saw some media was reporting that there was a court order on Ravi Vijayagunawardena. But when we look into that, there was no such court order. It was the police investigation.
This is the thing. Why we don't agree that the police should be conducting their operation via the media.
But here, I mean, we don't know from where that particular piece of information was leaked or given to some selected media. It's not every media, but it was very selected media was published this story. But when you go into the details,
but there does seem to be a problem, isn't there? Because
no, Faraz, my point is, right, the allegation on Mr. Ravi Vijayagunawardena is, I mean, hiding the, allowing Navy Sampath to flew out of the country, right. We know, I mean, we were involved with this particular child abuse case, I mean, the kidnapping and abduction and all that particular drama which has happened, and we know where these allegations are. The main suspect and the people are here and there. We see them around Colombo city still, but this was a minor incident in related to that particular major case. Now,
the major case being the
abduction and killing, and nothing about hiding or helping one suspect to flew out of the country. But here, now the big issue has been sidelined by a very small minor incident. I mean, if there's allegation, they can go into the courts and they can take actions.
They can
question, at least. I mean, if there's allegation against me, Faraz, I mean, police come to me or police invite us to go there.
There's no need to
arrest him. And I mean, we are talking about the highest level of army, the defense officer in Sri Lanka, and if he is to arrest on arrival, for that matter, I mean, there must be some proper or some decent way of doing it.
Yes. Now then, in sort of connected to this whole matter is also people are questioning as to why there should be a police commission when the police chief is not apparently listening to the police commission, but he's got some concerns. And now the Constitutional Council has given him 2 weeks for both of them to sort iron out their differences.
I mean, we were very closely watching the behavior of the Department of Police and the Law and Order Ministry and the Police Commission for that matter. And there are unanswered questions than answers for the way they behave, the way they act, and all that is in a question mark. Number one, the police commission gives directions. It's an independent body according to the constitution. But here, the instructions, the policy guidelines which is created by the police commission is not implemented. I mean, we can give hundreds of examples about promotions, transfers, the decisions has to come, then the decisions has to re-refer to the police commission and all that. I mean, don't underestimate or don't try to play around the commissions. This is some, I mean, commissions has to be independent and they are functioning independently. And if the other government institutions are not following the instructions, definitely we are having a problem down there. And that's why the Speaker, Honorable Karu Jayasuriya, stepped in and given some very strict sort of advice to them. You have to sort out your differences and work together in a way. But here, the behavior of police department, I think, is having more questions rising these days. Especially we saw there's allegations about the TID chief Nalaka de Silva working with some underworld gangs down there. I mean, how can this sort of a issue, that sort of a conversation exists? This is conspiracy against the state. This has involved with the president, the former defense secretary, 2 senior DIGs for that matter, the very respected Mr. Latif, the senior DIG, who was in charge of the STF at the moment, who was doing all these raids on drugs and various issues for that matter. I mean, physically handling or threatening sort of a thing comes to the president, former defense secretary. I think this is a real concern factor. And when these sort of allegations were made by the underworld people, why it was given to the SIU for that matter is a very big question. It has to go to the CID. Instead of going into the CIU. I mean, CIU is something directly under the IGP. So this sort of a thing has to properly investigate, and definitely it should go to the CID. CID is the one who is having that capacity to do this, and the junior officials, police officials cannot handle this sort of a thing, because the name of the president, the former defense secretary, the 2 senior DIGs.
There always seems to be a problem with this. Now, whilst you're speaking, I was just thinking of the same thing. Now, the FCID was set up, or so they told us, to look into matters of fraud, serious fraud investigations, serious financial irregularities, okay? Now, and where the monies of the state have been lost or compromised, and also with a focus on the money laundering aspect of it. Now, we found that at the beginning it was all gung-ho. Everybody who was anybody in the previous government all had to turn up there. It was like a circus. But now we find that some of the files are sent to the National Procurement Commission, some files are still there, some have been with the
Aegis Department. 46 files are still with the Aegis Department.
That's right. So in the meantime, we then see we can't understand why there are, in some cases, like the Minister of Sport, for example, they then, the Sri Lanka cricket matter, which we will touch on in a moment,
definitely.
that initially went to the FCID. That's another time-wasting exercise, when everybody knows that that's not what the FCID.
No, I mean, when it comes to the Sri Lankan cricket issue, it's very simple. The finance department contained with 3 people, and the Sri Lankan cricket should name the responsible person, the main suspect of this, and delaying it for almost 1 week now, rising eyebrows. And in the other hand, I mean, why it has to refer to the FCID to investigate without making direct allegation with the person who is dealing with this particular contract?
That's right. Now then, and it raises even more eyebrows when Sri Lanka cricket do not disclose. They send one person on compulsory leave and they refuse to name that suspect, right? But they're happy to tell us to leak the information about the server access time and so on and so forth, very technical details.
Yes.
So if that's the case, then there appears to be a prima facie case. I know that it is not us or them that ought to be deciding if there is a prima facie case, and that down to the police and the AG.
I think in this case, I mean, there are 3 main people who has handled this with the Sri Lankan cricket. These names should come out, and one thing why these names are not getting exposed is the biggest question. I mean, my feeling in this case, what happened to the treasury bond case? I mean, yesterday we saw that the facts were reported to the courts. So 102 vouchers has gone missing, destroyed.
Destroyed apparently at the instruction of Arjuna Aloysius.
Arjuna Aloysius. And this is where what we are talking about, 118 names, then it was changed 164 names, and we were continuously saying
it's all numbers,
all 200 plus vouchers and all that. So we know what has happened to 102 vouchers which made payments to the politicians, ministers, very senior journalists and so forth, government officials and so forth. So, I mean, the issue here, we are talking about this for almost 3 long years. Not a single indictment is served yet.
That's right. And what is also painful, very painful indeed, is that although Newsfirst first asked for a forensic audit long time ago, and those in COPE will know about that.
16 months has gone
by, and we are still waiting. Now we're waiting, and the governor of the central bank says that it's in the final stages. He's sorting it out, or it's sorted out. But you know, we'd like to see. They're quick to make announcements of all sorts of things. But if that is indeed the case, and we have no reason to doubt the honourable governor, but if that is the case, we would be much obliged and appreciative if they announce the details. That's all we're asking. We need to know that things are happening.
Don't forget the fact, Faraz, once again, all the allegations, the speed of the investigations, the speed of reporting facts to the courts has been slowed down for last 3 months continuously. And the information coming out of that, the progress of the investigations is slowing down day by day.
It is slowing down day by day. Is that to do with the, like you say, the another 13 months more? Is it linked?
Definitely. This is the issue. This is the concerned issue. I mean, this government is not ready to hold elections until the presidential election, but the way now the politics rolls around, I think, I mean, if they can avoid the presidential election, I think that's all about 20th Amendment. They try to do their best to get parliamentary elections, not going for a presidential election, because, I mean, it's very simple. The former president, Mahinda Rajapaksa, cannot contest. In the other hand, Ranil Wickremesinghe, can he contest a presidential election and get 50% plus 1?
That's the question.
That's the question, I'll say.
Right. But the bond 2, even that is on hold because we need the forensic audit done.
Without going into the forensic audit, I mean, talking about bond 2 is pointless.
But also, now, Keerthi, to look at it, at the end of the day, if we do forensic audits, this seems to be a wonderful tool, which perhaps the Auditor General should use even more. Because if we have the forensic audit, it's become now imperative that Sri Lanka Cricket, this is shocking, Sri Lanka Cricket's monies, according to what has been leaked and what is available, apparently they had a bank account in Mexico under the name of Sri Lanka Cricket, but it says, it's not very clear, it's a bit hazy, it says Sri Lanka Cricket US. I'm not sure if this is a matter for a legal team to look at, whether somebody was trying to pass off. In law, there is an offense of passing off, and we wonder whether this is that. But nevertheless, the instructions in that is all sort of convoluted. They say, please send it to some company that had been set up in September 2017 and in Hong Kong, transfer it there, and they will onward transmit it to Mexico. Well, if that Mexico account was bona fide, why didn't it just go from there to there? We are told that Sri Lanka Cricket has only got one foreign bank account, and that was in London with the Bank of Ceylon. Now, apart from that, most people that we've spoken to say that there is no other account. But here, that's why a forensic audit is now required to look at all the income that Sri Lanka people
No, the general picture here, the big picture here, I mean, the information, the investigation, investigators, the way they handle it, I mean, it goes fine to some extent, but here all of a sudden, what happened with the bond case for that matter, we know the people, we know the bank accounts, we know the check numbers, we know the details, and even the receiver admits that they got money.
Yes.
And then what is happening thereafter?
Yes.
So the procedure, I mean the speediness of the further actions deliberately delayed in some other steps.
Now,
so
if Azad Saleh had an interesting proposition, he suggested that a special account be opened with the central bank and so that the Treasury can have their hands on it, a special account in which people who have received monies from this bond scam can return it and put it into that special account, and then it can go back to the consolidated fund.
Faraz, I'll tell you a very funny story. I mean, can you remember the Prime Minister was telling to the Parliament that this money is now with the central bank, it is freezed, so there's no loss has been occurred. But here, the freezing money is something different of getting back into the state coffins. Exactly. It has not happened.
We are talking about the other money, not the money that's with the central bank.
The issue here, to do that, there's a legal procedure has to be followed.
Yes.
Now, I mean, almost...
That is the procedure that's been delayed.
The procedure has been delayed. It was the basic steps were taken in last February. Not a single court hearing were taken up to now. So how much more time they need to handle this? Yes.
This has been wonderfully pulled along, hasn't it? It has been stretched from, it is disgraceful. February 2015, 1st of March, we bring it up on in the media, on television. And it's now so long, and the matter has been dragged along. The appointment of a 3-member committee by the Prime Minister, all complete nonsense.
The big picture, to sum it up, I mean, here, in one hand, we are having an issue with the security of the President, former Defense Secretary, and some other very senior DIGs and very senior officials, key people in this country. The lawlessness is not helping. In the other hand, the police investigators and the Department of Police is not working with the Police Commission under their instructions. Where are we handling? Where we are heading?
Where are we heading?
Definitely, that is the biggest question, as we are only having 13 months for the next for the presidential election nominations.
So, in a strange sort of way, it is through these contentious methods that Ranil Wickremesinghe looks like he's going to actually complete one full term.
It's too early to predict.
Oh, really? Because it's 13 months more?
Yes. 13 months is a very long period. The budget has to be
tabled. What about the provincial elections?
My understanding, they won't go for provincial elections.
The chief procrastinator, Faisal Mustafa.
I mean, now it's the ball is on the Parliament. Right. I mean, it's a Parliament. Every party who represents the Parliament has to make a decision.
Right. Well, in that case, it's time for us to wait and see again.
Definitely.
Keerthi Tennakoon, thank you very much for being on Newsline.
It's pleasure, Faraz, as usual.
And that's about it. That's the way it was on Newsline this morning. Do take care, and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.